And welcome to the 10th episode of Great Scott Marcus. I'm Scott, and that one's Mark. Mark, how you doing?
Pretty good. I just had a pizza, nice ass pizza.
Okay.
And I was watching Sandlot. Sandlot's on Netflix, so it throws me back. It was very good. How
you
were
know,
you?
I watched some The Fifth Element last night. It was on Sci-Fi, and then Reed and I did our recording, and I was like, I really want to watch that. So it is a good one. Still holds up pretty well. My parents didn't appreciate it, but whatever.
What was your recording about with Reed?
That was our 0 frames per second. He can't always do it on the same day, so...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was our 0 frames per second recording, which we'll post this week. And since we're already talking about that... Actually, I still want to do a kind of a fun fact. I kind of want to get in the habit of doing fun facts for our episodes.
Sure.
But I don't see it lasting long. But I'm going to do one anyway.
Do you have a fun fact?
Yes. Your eyes see in 576 megapixels, which is like nearly 576 million pixels. So, yeah. I remember I texted you the one time we were talking about like TVs and stuff, and you were just like, how much better can they get? And I was like... We'll never have a display that can, like, actually look like we see. So anyway, that's the fun fact for this week.
It's an interesting thing. I mean, in the realms between digital and analog when it comes to, taking photos and, are we going to be able to see screens that are essentially our vision? So that's kind of a neat tidbit.
I did that. I talked about that on a Just Scott No Marcus one time, how I kind of, like, touched on this thing, like... Technology is ever trying to catch up to us, but then it does all these fucking things that we can't do.
Yeah.
Processes algorithms that would take us like hundreds of years.
Right.
And, sees in infrared and all this different shit. And
but at the same time, we have a hard time trying to, like, I don't know, cure illnesses. It's kind of bizarre.
Yeah, it's this weird mixture.
Yeah.
Anywho... So, oh wow, I'm already screwing this up.
I was questioning that, but I was like, maybe that's part of a ramble that you were going
I mean, that is the first ramble, but...
Yeah.
So, I do want to do some housekeeping real quick. I'm
Sure.
going to do it on every 0 frames per second and every Great Scott Marcus until everything is kind of wrapped up and kind of mostly solved. This next week, there will be no recordings.
Yes, next 2 weekends.
For you, the next two. For 0 frames per second will be in 2 weeks, and then Great Scott Marcus will return in 3 weeks. And, yeah, basically you're going on vacation. Reed is going to hell, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to have to resurrect him. It's fine.
I hope he brings a bathing suit, to go on the beaches. Yeah.
Yeah. And... So, yeah, during that time, I'm going to be doing, a lot of covering the audio issues, so Great Scott Marcus, 0 frames per second, probably going to be very late, but we don't have a viewership, we don't have a huge subscriber base, so as I've said, there's really no better time to be doing this, so this week is probably going to be very much about getting the compression done, and even looking into the editing of the audio tracks, which will even insert another step to all of the editing. So once all of that kind of finally coalesces, I'm going to... that'll basically be where things get back on track. I am... very eager to start a Battleborn show. That is the show I've really been thinking about starting.
Sure.
However, I am concerned that... So like, there's this weird cross of concerns. I want to... And it's Hat Day, by the way. I didn't get to point that out. It's this weird cross of... I want to get myself out there and get... be one of those first people to do analytics on Battleborn as opposed to just, here's a character, here's some Battleborn play, because that seems to be a lot of what people are doing with it. And then there's also, well, I would rather have everything solved and also be recording State of the Frame. There is this question in my mind. At first I was like, well, I should probably do State of the Frame every other week. But then there, came the time where it's just like, well, I'm not into Warframe right now. I still
Right.
love the game, and I can't wait to return to it. But does that mean I should be making videos for it?
Well, I mean, if you're not playing it right now, I mean, I feel like if you try to make a state of the frame video, it's going to seem kind of like a chore, since
Well,
you're not into it. And then you're going to force yourself to think about it and talk about it when your mind's really not wrapped around the game currently.
But then there's also the view that it's wishy-washy, that, if there was an audience garnered, then they'd want their content.
Sure.
So, do I save that content for when there's an audience garnered? Is there going to be issues with the Battleborn show that will pause it? Again, it's this kind of really catchy knot that I don't want to seem disingenuous towards. I love both of these games, and I want them to be timely. However, we don't have an audience, and there's just this kind of, I'm kind of in this catch-22 where it's just like, jump in now, where there's a larger audience and more people interested and people looking for tips on how to play.
Sure.
Or,
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
I'm still fighting this stupid sinus thing, and I'm just clearing my throat constantly. This
well,
tickle.
then start
It's
drinking
awful.
more.
I know, I really should.
No, seriously, do it so you stop clearing your throat so much.
It's there it is. I think I got it.
Drink more water.
Anyways.
Seriously. And so Gatorade's not going to help. That's sugars. You actually need something that will clear your throat, not clog it more.
Yes.
Anyway, so I don't know. You voiced some thoughts. Do you have any more for me?
I think I think it's going to depend on the content. And I know your state of the frame video was about 40 minutes to an hour long, was it not? Right?
Yeah, and the one issue with the state of the frame is that it's not a meta style game where the play can constantly shift.
Sure.
Something can become a lot more popular in weeks or months to come, where it's just like, oh well, these Arendis are really busting us up, or Oscar Mike, this new Oscar Mike play where he's stealthing into the back of bases, which is actually pretty crappy right now. When people run in with their cloak into the back of people's bases, it sucks. Stop doing it. These plays can evolve, basically, and
Sure.
That's where, having a Battleborn show could be more persistent, and so, again, I'm just worried about both sides of it. I want to jump in.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
I feel like, if you're going to do Battleborn, you're going to, you've done State of the Frame or anything else.
You mean alone?
No, just, time-wise, personally, I feel
a Battleborn show would probably be once a week.
No, I mean, how long would your episodes be? Your recordings, still about an hour?
I think it would be dependent on what exactly is going on in the game and what's at the forefront of my mind analytically. The first episode I could see completely just being a set of rambles.
Sure.
Whereas sometimes there would be a topic, hey, we're just going to cover this character. Either way, I mean, Ramble Entertainment, I'm going to ramble about different things in effect in the game. However, I think, starting off once a week, just kind of where everything kind of stands.
Yeah. I would say just, State of the Frame maybe once a month. Just keep that a constant once a month thing, while you're not into it. And if you start getting back into it again, then be like, hey, well, I'll do it twice a month. And for Battleborn, since you're currently into it, maybe bi-weekly. I mean, you've got, a number of, stuff going on here between our show, those two shows, then the show with Reed. And I'm not sure if you and Jen are going to actually start something with recordings.
We are. I just want to get through all the audio issues.
Sure.
Or at least get the audio pretty leveled off before we start the digital distance.
I just wouldn't want you to be, too just having too much on your plate at once and it being a stress, you know?
Well, here's what I've done. I mean, I've cut the shows because I would rather have quality content rather than just a swath of used up content.
Yeah.
And so, you know, as I'm solving these issues, I'll just admit, lazily, you know, like, I could really put the hammer down, but it's a pain in the ass. I'm not getting paid for it. And that's not to say that I don't want to do this, you know, for free as a hobby. It's just when it's a hobby and when it's a stress at the same time, you're less likely to, you know, just pour yourself into it. Otherwise, as you said, it's just a stress, and for me, stress is pain. So I'll figure it out. And, you know, we might even talk after the show about it more. But, yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So,
all right.
Last time on Great Scott, Marcus, Scott, and Mark talked about Call of Duty and Battlefield, and then both fucking games were revealed. This time on
Weekend Gaming.
This time on Great Scott, Marcus. So, on 0 frames per second, Reed and I were kind of talking about our impressions of these, but at the same time, you and I had just kind of talked about these games. So, I want to do that on this show as well.
Sure.
Do you want to kick it off? Like,
we're gonna call it like first impressions or just thoughts?
No, just
based
thoughts.
on these trailers.
We're not. Yeah, we're just talking. This show hasn't changed.
I mean, based off what I've seen and even what I've seen on YouTube, and what was that you sent me a picture the other day of all the dislikes of the new Call of Duty was an astounding number of dislikes. I think, if you want to say that these two games are competing with each other, I think Battlefield definitely took the victor on this one. I mean, even just the trailer itself was more enticing. It wasn't as, I don't know.
A dislike campaign means nothing as far as what game is doing better than what game.
Perception-wise, based on, I mean, someone's going to watch it. I don't think people are going to be like, let's all dislike this at once. I mean...
Yes, that is exactly what happens.
Is that what the people are doing?
An internet campaign to dislike a video is not the perception of everyone. That's don't fall into that trap.
Instead of like trying to
that's exactly the problem.
They should get hobbies.
That's exactly one of the problems with the internet, and one of the things we often talk about is toxicity on the internet. And for a long time, Battlefield has been a fun thing Call of Duty has been a fun thing to hate on. Now, is every single one of those dislikes because of a dislike campaign?
Yeah.
No. Here's what I thought you were going to kick off with, the whole David Bowie thing.
Oh, yeah, that was dumb. Oh, bad.
And I could, not being a music person, but hearing your perspective, I could see people disliking the video for that reason, and I could also see people seeing the number of dislikes and also just jumping on the train. Yeah. However, I think... Activision made a pretty shrewd move at the investor meeting that was reported on, where they said, we're still gonna, these are still people who are, obviously interested enough to come out and, do this, and also at the same time, the game has become something that is easy to hate on, and the number of dislikes are not reflected in the views. The likes and dislikes are never reflective of the views.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like it or dislike it, even though I personally disliked it. I have no reason to muster a negative vote on it, but also, based on the comments, people are like, oh, I bet a lot of people are disliking this, they're going to buy it anyways, which is probably true.
Anyway, this is nowhere near where I wanted things to go. About the trailers, so here's that shouldn't matter. That's the whole problem already. Don't let the perceptions of others dictate the show and your views. So again, that aside, what do you?
That was the first thing that I thought of. Was just like wow, that was interesting.
I guess I completely agree with those who are saying people have. are not in touch. Like, and, you know, like, if that's what you're going out and disliking, that, or, like, that's what you're interested in, and that's what you think the news should be about, then, you know, like, yeah, you need more to do. So, anyway, the actual games and the trailers themselves.
Okay, I'm gonna make it short and sweet. Call of Duty looks like a game I don't want to play. Battlefield looks like a game I do want to play.
That was just so short. Like, so,
well, I mean, okay, so Call of Duty, like we talked about last time, it's been in this direction of going to the future, and it's just, I don't know, it doesn't seem like it's anything new. And Battlefield, like, I have not played a first-person shooter that is historical. I mean, they had Battlefield 14 or 1942, and I'm sure I know there's other ones out there, but I just haven't played them, except for Time Splitters, which was a fantastic fucking game. So yeah,
technically not
in the past, but then
yeah, there was like, I think, one time period that was that far in the past.
It's so much fun, but
it was a great game.
I'm excited about it. Like, that'd be fucking cool to, you know, it's just something different, you know. It's not automatic machine guns, you know. Yeah, I mean, there will be automatics. It's World War One, but it's mechanically and how your playstyle is going to be is, I would imagine, be completely different than, you know.
Well, they've already confessed to that, you know, it's not a true take on history, because World War I was not exciting. It was bloody as hell, but it didn't move very far. Right. And there could be machine guns in that instance if, you know, like, they choose to skew things that much. Mm-hmm. And so, I think that's kind of... Mark.
What?
Giant head mode.
I'm just leaning on my...
Oh, okay. I'm just trying to get you out of giant head mode.
I can mean small head mode.
No!
Then you can't hear me.
God damn it. So...
There we go.
Issues with quality aside, So... A different perspective on what World War I could have looked like. Cool. World War I is very hard to confront in games because it wasn't technically exciting, and technically no war should ever technically be exciting. But as far as set pieces go, it wasn't meant to go very far, but obviously they're going to take it to different places somehow. Mm-hmm. That will be interesting. How they do all this will also be very interesting. They haven't really shown too much. I believe there is some gameplay is starting to seep out onto some of the larger sites. I've been meaning to check it out. Mm-hmm. I have a feeling it's going to be a cross between almost archaic and kind of what would have been advanced for that time.
Yeah.
The name sucks.
Oh, yeah, it's terrible. Unless, like what we had said, you know, they plan on trying to kind of make a Battlefield 2 and sort of a reboot, but...
Well, that has to be obvious. Like, you can't go Battlefield 1, just like you can't go Xbox One unless you plan for a 2. But
it's like your second generation one, so it's just like, why is it the 1?
Yeah, and it's just, whatever. We just got done with 4, and there's going to be this misperception everywhere, and I think one of the larger issues is that we've kind of accepted this as consumers through things like the Xbox One, and
I just don't understand, like, why not, you know, they had Battlefield 1942, which was World War II based, so why not call this one whatever, what was the year, 1914, something like that, like Battlefield 1914. You know, it's something that's specific, but you're not setting yourself up for a franchise. Like, there's no reason to be like, this is going to be the first one. Like, just call it what it is, and that's that. Like, don't be like, Battlefield 1, we're going to make 2.
Well,
we already did 3, what are we going to do now?
The connotation is World War I. So, they could easily do Battlefield 2, and that's World War II. And then Battlefield 3 might be, you know, what they see to be World War III. and it will have that kind of jump like Call of Duty does. I think if they do that, that's a mistake. You should hone in.
Two Battlefield 3s.
You should hone in a bit more for a bit more length. Like Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2 jumped, like for quite a while, and they held a nice stretch of player base. And on that note, because I really don't have much more to say about Battlefield, just kind of personally disappointed. I don't know. I can't see myself interested in it right now. Of course, trailers typically don't get me very hyped. Oddly, the Call of Duty trailer, unlike you, actually did get me hyped. Only when the song started to play. I'm not a big music guy, so I can't really, sit here and criticize that side of it. I can criticize the idea that they're launching these giant ships into space that seem to be propelled by what is recognizably to our eyes rocket fuel, which can't propel that big a mass into space, at least to my understanding, not according to physics. Reed and I were talking about this on 0 frames per second, so I don't want to dive too deep into that. However, the concern I want to bring up is that kind of lack of scientific fortitude that the game might just seem to lack, where it's just like, why am I able to just walk around on this ship? We're in space. There's technically no gravity. Why am I able to do this? And the game doesn't explain it. You don't need to explain everything away, but sometimes, even just for fiction's sake, you should explain some things away. Like, these have ion drives. Well, we don't know how ion drives function in real life, so cool.
We have them. Yay.
Yeah, so, that's one of my concerns. I said this. I also said this to Reed, and I'm curious on your take on this. The piloting sequences, the fighter pilots, the dogfights, the air-to-air combat, that's supposedly only in the campaign. I think that's
disappointing.
Yeah, that's a bit half-assed. Like, I feel like in a lot of ways, Call of Duty campaigns are often in themselves a story and a campaign of gunplay. However, at the same time, they can gear you up and get you excited for PvP. And I think that if you're just going to start including all these elements that aren't in PvP, then you're almost packaging together two different games.
I feel like they've done that for a while almost. For some reason, I'm remembering other Call of Duty games playing the campaign or even just watching footage of a trailer, and it's like, man, that looks awesome. But then when you play PvP, it's nothing like the campaign. Or
technically, they're never supposed to be the same. But a lot of gameplay elements are meant to transfer.
Right. You
pilot a helicopter in, I believe, Black Ops 1 or 2, and you still, pilot that helicopter on a kill streak. The plane you could still pilot on a kill streak, but if there's dogfights in the campaign, is it really that tough to have dogfights for PvP? It's a lot of people have made the comparison to Titanfall, which you don't entirely know is a game about giant robots falling from spaceships that you get into, and then you are basically a first-person robot instead, and you have big first-person robot battles, as well as a ground war with players scurrying about on foot. And a lot of people point out how the trailer is, seems like it's chasing Titanfall, and it just makes me more excited for Titanfall. I went into big head mode.
I was going to say something, but I was like, should I move closer now and make my head bigger?
Let's just keep each other on our toes. I'm a troll.
Oh no! And the back.
So, your side of it, do you have anything you really want to wrap up on these two games?
Not really. I mean,
well, so I do want to know, I get that David Bowie just died, but I'm sure his songs are super fucking expensive. Yeah. Why is this offensive?
I don't think it's offensive. What? Well, I mean, I wasn't like, oh my god, that's offensive that they're playing David Bowie. You know, when the music did start, you know, and he mentioned something about it, I was like, I went back and I was like, well, yeah, like in the beginning when the music first started, you know, around like with the 1 minute mark of the trailer, like it was kind of ambient and airy. It didn't have the actual sound of Space Oddity. I think that's what the song's called. But man, like I just don't get it. Like if you're gonna play a song by somebody, play that song. But I know what they try to do because they're like, okay, well, the Bowie song's back in God, I don't remember what year it was. I can probably look it up. But of course, this is a future game, so you can't. Maybe they probably thought that you can't have an old sounding song in a current game in Space Oddity because they're playing in space, like real creative. And it's just a shitty sounding cover. You know, and
You didn't like it?
No. It's because it was just a there was no feeling involved in it, you know.
Interesting.
After like Prince just died too. Here's the thing, like I
What does
know
Prince
these
have to
artists.
do with it?
Let's wait.
Okay.
And when Prince died, like there were a couple artists that did some covers, you know, them like kind of tribute covers, you know, just singing acoustic, and it was just like it kind of brought back the conversation we had a while ago about pop covers. You know, it was like you could feel the emotion in it, like it had a reason behind it. Whereas Space Oddity with this really bad cover didn't have any kind of emotion behind it. It was just like, what's a song about space? Space Oddity, people know it, but just then bad timing because he just died, and it's just like it wasn't a tribute, and it was just there for marketing.
Does it now? Here's the question: one, does it have to be? Two, how far in advance of Bowie's death was this trailer made?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it shouldn't have been that song. Period.
You think they should, like Bowie died? If it was already in the trailer, they should have cut it.
Probably. Shit, I wouldn't have even chosen the song. Like in general, because it's just a cliche thing. You know, it's just like we're having a game about space. What's a famous song about space? Space Oddity. Like, be creative. I don't know. Make your own music, or you know, have.
So from the perspectives of your of your analysis on the song itself, I can't, you know, posture any disagreement. I can't, you know, be like, well, no, man, because, you know, blah, blah, because I don't really know music. I'll say that I think the song had feeling in my opinion. However, on the note of if the trailer was made before Bowie died, they probably should have had a backup plan or just held the trailer. I don't think, again, if we're going to return to the dislikes and blah, blah, I don't think this was about David Bowie. I think I completely agree with a lot of people's assessment that this is some pretty bored people and some who might not even want to see Call of Duty move too far into the future.
I'm looking at when David Bowie died. It was like 6 months ago, I think. So I mean, it's like I don't think.
Ago? I thought it was only like 4 or 3.
January 10th.
Oh wow! No, that's only like
5 months ago.
5.
So I doubt it was completed by then.
Yeah, you probably have it done in like 3 months in advance. So yeah.
And Space Oddity came out in 1969, so it's like it's an old sounding song, and like I realized what they tried to do. I think it was just bad taste. Whether he was dead or if he was alive, he probably wouldn't have allowed him to have it.
Also, you should stop looking things up on your computer while we're broadcasting.
Was it slowing down
again? So. Again, wrapping up on this kind of dislike campaign that we started with, I do agree still that this really comes down to more of a bored internet kind of thing, you know, and than anything to do with Bowie, although I'm sure a lot of those dislikes, some thousands, came from Bowie fans or, you know, people who recognize what you recognize in this. Anything about Battlefield 1? Battlefield fucking 1, really?
God, change the name.
God, that sounds so bad. They didn't even call. I'm sure they didn't even call the original Battlefield 1, which kind of makes it even worse. Like, That's...
Yeah, just a bad name. And in the end, the only thing that's going to really matter is profits, I guess, for both companies.
I don't even know if that is actually the case, because while Call of Duty is still probably going to hit it pretty hard and then quit it, I think they're basically going to make a lot of sales. And then they're not going to report those sales because those sales are less than sales from a few or a couple years back. Battlefield, I think, won't report them either because they're still not Call of Duty sales. Battlefield is great. They have, probably... Man, I want to say they probably have an awesome niche audience, but they really have jumped all over the place. There were two Battlefields that, Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 that did a lot of the same thing. Before that, there was Bad Company, which was very popular, but still niche, where it was just like, it wasn't as popular as the Call of Duty series. So with Battlefield 3, they tried to compete with Call of Duty. And then people realized they aren't really competitors. I mean, sure, in the sense that they're both games, they compete, but they both do things differently, and that's good. But I still don't think they've hit that audience that they're looking for, that, like, Modern Warfare 2 size sale. And, yeah, I just, they'll sell great. So... Anyway, so as things begin to wrap up in the polls, we talked a bit on some of the first Great Scott Marcus's about politics, here and there, light sprinklings. And so as we start to lean towards Trump and Clinton being the contenders, or might be two of the contenders, it seemed time to just kind of mention it
and try not to get too into it.
I mean, I told you I won't be, because I'm pretty, moot towards all of it at this point.
It just sucks. I'm reminded of something I saw on the internet not too long ago.
Was it toxic? I bet it was toxic.
No, it was actually kind of funny. You ever seen Ace Ventura, the second one?
I'm losing you.
Meaning you haven't seen Ace Ventura?
No. I mean, like, you're breaking up a lot.
I don't know why. There's nothing on. Phone's not on, no Wi-Fi.
Still losing you.
Balls.
I'll make a cut here. So before we had some internet issues, what I was saying was Trump versus Clinton versus potentially some other contenders. So in our first episodes of in a couple of the first episodes of Great Scott Marcus, we kind of had some light sprinklings of political talk. And so, yeah, we just kind of wanted to touch on these things as the primaries basically begin to wrap up and we go into the actual election season. You were saying how this is disappointing.
It is. I mean, it's just like... It seems like every 4 years you always have to choose a lesser of two evils, and it's not even the lesser of two evils at this point. It's just like, wow, America, how disappointing is this? Like, these are the candidates. Why did you do this?
I've been thinking about this analogy a lot, and I feel like what we're basically going to watch is two monsters that literally are just tearing each other apart and destroying the city that is basically America. And the populace is basically divided into three segments, where there's one cheering for one of the monsters, and then the others are cheering for the other monster, and then there's us in the middle who are just like, what the fuck? And at the end of the day, what's going to happen is that one of these monsters is going to win. And then they're going to sit down either next to or on top of the carcass of the other monster, and they're going to start, like, ripping into it, and pulling at its intestines, and playing with its dead eyes, and the people who were cheering both of these monsters on are just going to be horrified. They're just going to be like, what were we doing? The city's, like, fucking smoldering and destroyed, like the Godzilla movie, where for some reason they were cheering, and, like, everything around them was basically nuked.
Yay.
And
billions of dollars of damage, and nobody cares.
Yeah, and it's just, like, everybody's just going to be horrified at the end of the day, you know, like, somebody's going to realize, like, John was right next to me. Where is he? Oh, John! Oh, that's his leg! And it's...
Well, it's kind of strange though. It's just, I feel like, you know, in previous years there's always the ones that are like the anti whatever candidate, you know, but it's so weird because I feel like there's so much anti-Trump and anti-Hillary, but it's like, are they going to jump ship and vote for the opposition just to stick it to their party? And if so, like, it's just weird to me.
I think there's a lot of lack of realism when you're looking, you know, like, there's those who, you know, are like, Trump's a real threat, and it's just like, is he? Most of the time when he won, he barely broke, like, 30%. Sometimes he didn't even break, like, out of the, you know, 20% when he won. You know, this is a reflection of what the Republican, you know, Party is thinking.
Yeah.
So, I also think that, like, I personally don't think there's any potential that Clinton's going to be indicted. I don't think the Democrats would really be getting behind her as much as they are if she was going to, you know, be indicted over these emails. I also think that this might be a year where we see, like, 4 or 5 potential candidates. Not kidding. Like, why is Sanders still running? Well, duh. He's probably considering an independent bid. Like,
absolutely.
How is that escaping so many minds? Like,
I don't know.
Like, there's so many articles coming out that, like, Sanders literally mathematically can't win. There's no reason he should be running.
Well, no fucking shit, but there's this giant caveat you're all ignoring.
Yeah, it's just like, if he continues to win states, that is telling him that he should be an independent run. And it's just like... And then there was a meeting in Washington by a bunch of conservative leaders who are still looking at an independent conservative candidate to fight Trump. And Ryan won't back Trump. And Ryan is
of the House. Like,
and he's one of the most popular Republicans for the party, for this dying party.
I think Paul Ryan's a kind of a fuck anyways, too.
Yeah, I agree with that. He handled himself so poorly in debates against Biden. And I don't care.
Did I say Paul Walker? Paul Ryan. I feel like I just said Paul Walker. It's Paul Ryan.
No, you said Ryan.
Did I? I'm thinking of Scott Walker. He was like, he ran like 4 years ago from Wisconsin.
Interesting.
Anyway, sorry.
So, I think I think the writing on the wall here, and this isn't, you know, very surprising because, of course, you know, people who analyze politics for a living are saying, like, I think the writing on the wall that this is basically the end of the Republican Party. They could not beat somebody who is technically outside of the Republican Party from becoming the Republican nominee. And
yeah, I've never thought, I really didn't think about that. It's like, they didn't want, the Republican Party didn't want Trump to be the representative, but he is.
Exactly.
Weird.
And I think at the end of the day, like, what I really hope comes of this, and I think could benefit America and our political system, would be a split Republican Party that turns into 2 separate parties. Likely something that is Tea Party-esque, and then a conservative, almost liberalism, where they're
moderate.
Like, where they're close to the center line, but they're still mostly conservative, and that's really all it comes down to. Like, I used to be very heated about Trump But unfortunately, there are a lot of people who liked what he stands for. And at the end of the day, I don't care how far he shifts his appearance. He has said what he has said. Like, if the Clinton campaign wants to, they could accumulate all of the terrible things he has said and just play it on repeat. Just constantly. Yeah. And I think he'll lose just based on that. Like, I think that, obviously, Trump realistically stands a chance, but not a majority chance, realistically. And
it's just a shame. It's weird.
It really makes me reflective on our current state of American society, and as I've often said to you with, someone who has a girlfriend in Europe, I don't know why I really want to stick around other than that a lot of my belongings are just here.
FedEx it.
Yeah, exactly. And by the time, I'm probably ready to move anyways, at that point it'll be even cheaper. So
yeah. We need to watch The Newsroom. I've seen this clip I don't know how many times.
I need to, as well.
It's on Prime, and I think all 3 seasons are there. So there was a clip of Jeff Daniels just like, college student asks, like, why is America the greatest country? And he's just like, are you fucking serious? It is not the greatest country, and here's 12 reasons why. And they're all like kind of legit reasons, like healthcare is shitting, education is shitting.
It's of. I mean, I think that's still undeniable, leader in innovation and military power. But then, there's like all these other countries that are outpacing us elsewhere, and it's just like we're pretty middle of the road, maybe. As far as like the best, I'm not. You got
to pick your demons and what you mean by best and worst and whatever, I guess.
So before we move on and before you start breaking up too much again, like one of the, I
don't know why that is.
I know it's bothering me too.
Damn you, Time Warner.
It's okay. That's we work with what we got. The motto of Ramble Entertainment. A fucking work in progress. So basically, one of the one of the shows I watch, kind of funny. They often, do kind of the shtick of like, America's so great, we're the only country with real freedom, blah blah blah, and like I get it, it's funny, but then sometimes they take it too seriously, where it's. They talk about how we invented the internet. That's actually not true. We were one of the front runners in inventing the internet, but Europe was already working on such a network. I believe Russia was doing the same thing. There were actually all these different types of networks that these different countries were already trying to establish that finally just all came together. I believe the European one was called Cyclitis, and then we had DARPA or ARPA or both, and I don't know what the Russian one was, but I could just spend a bit of time on Wiki and prove this.
Yeah,
but
I believe it.
Yeah, like I hate... I hate this kind of, like, Americanism that just, like, we're still so fucking great. Like, we're doing all right.
So, like, we said earlier, it really depends on what you want to qualify as great. Like, yes, military, yes, innovation, but, like, a couple very important things are just tanking. So,
yeah, like, Apple and Google are still very powerful companies, very American companies, but Samsung isn't. And,
Sony isn't.
We're going to reach a point where we become a more incorporated world, hopefully. Otherwise, we might just kill ourselves. Moving forward.
Yes.
So, ignorance is bliss. I wanted to bring this up, but do you want to kick it off, since you kind of had a thing?
I'll let you kick it off. I mean, from this morning, I was pretty heated about it after my shower, because for some reason, when you're in the shower, like, every single good idea comes to your brain. But I mean, this was your topic, and if I can squeeze my little anecdote in there, then I will.
So, basically, I was ruminating on how I have often met others. I hate your fucking internet, Mark.
I don't know fucking why it is, dude. Like, nothing's on.
I know
check,
this
but...
this is killing me. Like now it's finally telling me the quality is yellow. Whatever. So we'll hang up before the main topic, because then I can at least cut the audio recording on my end as well.
Sure.
Anyway, so I was ruminating on, I'll often meet, others through gaming, through Mike, and I'll tell them about my situation, that I live at home in pain, recovering from it, and I spend a lot of my time gaming to keep myself from going nuts. It doesn't work. I'm still nuts. And there are those who respond to that in kind of a jealous fashion, like, oh, that's so cool, like, I wish I could do that. And it's funny, because in even bringing that up to you as a Ramble topic, I then reflected on how I looked at your situation, and I actually meant to ask you this before we started this recording. Is that okay for me to make mention of, or just kind of...
I don't care. I mean, it is what it is.
So... we've danced around this a bit, and I wasn't sure if you would ever want to bring it up, but the truth at the end of the day is you lost your leg. We won't get into the nitty-gritty. You have like a really advanced prosthetic that
I am bionic.
Like, basically, the first time I noticed that you even had a missing leg was like, I think the 5th time we had hung out, I was just like, dude, you're limping. And you were just like,
let me tell you a story.
You were just like, no, not really, I don't have a leg. And I was just like, oh, that's funny, so what happened? And you were just like...
That sounds like something I would say when I was drinking.
We had just gotten Mark Pie.
Oh.
And it was probably all the MSG in your system. And I was just like, oh, so what really happened? And you were just like, no, seriously, I don't have a leg. And... there was part of me that idealized your situation after you had told me what happened, because basically that kind of paid your way through college and paid for a lot of the nice things you have in your life, and many would argue deservedly so. And that's not what we're here to discuss, but it made me reflect on that and kind of do some self-reflection where people don't understand the issue and challenge I face daily. Like, stairs fucking suck. I hate stairs.
I don't like stairs either, so...
I mean...
I can sympathize a little bit.
They're getting better, but, there are a lot of issues that I have to face, and then other health issues have piled on top of it, on top of the issues that that we have to deal with, and... I can respect if somebody could say, well, yes, that definitely sucks. However, I would try to live with it, to try to be in your situation. Maybe not so much where, like, the parents are covering everything, but, like, I also understand that I have met people, in real life, not just through gaming, who just want to game all day. I still think it lacks a lot of intuition, as we have often said on this show. Like, don't tell me that, I should look up because I don't have cancer, and, I should look at those people and be like, oh man, good on me, because I don't understand what it's like to have cancer. Right. You don't understand what it's like to live in my pain. I don't understand what it's like to live in your shoes. And... I wasn't gonna go there, but I'm kind of happy you did. And so, there's this weird middle ground I've found myself again thinking on, where it's just like my situation has, even with all of the gaming I've done, been nowhere near fun. Like, I don't enjoy most days. Most days suck because of today sucks because of the amount of pain. And, it's just, again, this notion that ignorance is bliss people don't understand, but that there's this idea that, like, we all have like more perception than we actually think we do. Where I used to think that, where I was just like, oh man, I can understand, like what that person is going through, and have like no perspective on their life whatsoever. It's there's so much to say and unpack from it. I'm just gonna stop talking and let you talk for a bit and maybe collect my thoughts.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think we've talked about this many times. Like everyone has a story. Everyone has an issue, and those stories and issues can go unknowing to other people that you meet in life. I think that's why you gotta kind of made it like the new motto like earlier when it was like do good things, because bad things can happen, or bad things are happening to other people, and it doesn't necessarily mean you need to sympathize for them or make them feel sorry or feel sorry for them. Like myself, it's one of those things, like I don't bring it up because it's been 10 years, it's been me, it's who I am, but at the same time I don't identify myself as such. I try to live my life. So when people ask like what happened, I'm like, well, this is what happened, and well, here I am, I'm alive. You gotta find happiness in smaller places if you need to. It's like I could wake up every day and be like, well, fuck, I've got one leg, but I'm breathing this air, I'm looking at the sky, I'm watching The Sandlot. Like happy things. Like there's more to it than just bumming around. And I think your situation, silver linings and things. You're doing something like this. You are into something like the gaming, and it's just like that's good stuff. It's not like you're, I don't know.
I think a lot of it for me is this kind of idealization that, like, I just get to game. No! Like, most of the time, I spend time in-game because I'm trying to distract myself from the amount of pain. It's just like, people hear one thing that they're interested in, and they think that that's it. And I guess, my reflection on your issue, at least when I reflected on it, it was at the very least like a personal cost. I would just be like, could I try to afford that personal cost?
Yeah.
Here's a butcher's axe.
Hey, maybe it'll get rid of your pain. I mean, it'll hurt when you're cutting your own leg off.
It's in my hip. I don't think that's going to get rid of it.
Yeah, having one knee sucks, but I can't imagine only having one hip, so I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, so personally, at the very least, I guess I would ask anybody who looks at my situation and idealizes it to say, fine, if you want to play games, at least try to idealize how it might how this thing might drive you out of your mind, because it is day after day after day. I can count on one hand the number of days across 3 years I have had that have been completely pain-free without painkillers. And it's just like, again, this just kind of like returning to that notion of just like, people think they get it. Like, we live in kind of a society and culture where we're almost made to think we get it, and we don't.
And I think we just need to have an understanding. It's like when I was in college, like when we first met, like I was in pain for about like 4 years, albeit different kind of pain, but yeah. It was just like, but again, just I never asked for sympathy. I never asked for someone to try to be in my shoes. But when I talked about it and be like, oh, all right, well that's that, and that's all I really asked for was just an basic understanding. That's also kind of how we get along, because we understand each other's situations because we've done it, sort of. I don't know.
Because you're a pixelated internet robot, exactly.
Son of a bitch! I don't know why.
So basically, yeah, it's this is an issue we will ever confront. Like, I mean, this is something we will always talk about on the show. It's probably never going to change. How about we do the hype train in a separate recording?
Okay.
We'll end the call. We'll splice it in, and yeah, just be a bit more cognizant of your ignorance, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I became more cognizant, but I was also aware that, like, I couldn't experience what you had experienced, you know, so it's like, there's so many twists and turns to that. I just wanted to bring it up. So,
You just want to like have a brain transplant one day and see what happens.
well, then we won't have the same body. So it's just like the chemical responses still aren't the same. And now you're back. What is going on?
I don't know. I have no idea.
It's white. Ugh.
Is white good?
It's pink. I'm pregnant. No, you started breaking up again. So I'm going to go ahead and end the recording, and then we'll end the call, and then we'll record the hype train, and then we'll record the thing.
All right, I'm going to go turn everything off.
Fantastic. Stay tuned, guys. So I really don't have too much to say about hype train this week.
I sort of.
Do you want to kick it off, or should I?
Go ahead.
Well, basically, I intend for the coming week to be a lot about fixing the audio issues, and in between that, I'm going to be playing Battleborn, and outside of that, I'm not excited for any shows, not excited for any movies. There's just nothing that's really like, oh man, you know, like I'm pumped.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a date with Jen over Skype.
Nice.
That's nice. Yes.
Light a candle.
3 of them, actually.
Nice.
They're right back there behind my head.
Ooh, hey.
And
nice.
so,
I like things in threes, so I definitely support your decision to do 3 candles.
I believe one is apricot, one is either strawberry or cherry, and one is vanilla.
I was gonna say vanilla. It's gotta be vanilla.
I mean, you have to have vanilla.
You gotta have vanilla
candle.
candles. I
So
don't have any vanilla candles. Maybe that's my problem.
That's exactly your problem.
I'm gonna buy some vanilla candles, and just every single fucking problem I have solved.
Yeah, because I don't have pain or anything, and I have a nice job and live independently, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
I hate you so much.
I know. Speaking of hating me, I'm hyped because I'm going on vacation. I'll be gone from Friday, flying out of Columbus to San Diego. Then 2 buddies of mine and I, James and...
Damn it, Mark, you gave the internet your location. Now you have to move.
I know. I'd like to. I think we already mentioned Columbus before.
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned Cleveland. So.
Yeah. We're from the Midwest. Yay.
Yay.
We're
cheap here.
Yeah, then flying to San Diego, then driving from San Diego to Seattle. That'll be a long-ass drive. It'll probably be exhausting because we're going to try to hit up like 8 different cities, 7 cities in 9 days. At first, I was kind of reluctant, like, that's going to be a lot of fucking driving. But James was like, no, it's a road trip. I'm like, okay.
It's a road trip.
It's a road trip or a brocation.
Yeah.
Pretty pumped about that. I mean, I've been to LA before in San Francisco, but going again would be nice. And also seeing Portland and Seattle would be kind of cool. Never been there.
Notice how the quality has just, like, immensely gone up, and all we did was reset the Skype call. Like,
it might have been Skype itself, just shitting the bed, rolling
so
around
disappointing.
with his mouth open. Yes. So yeah, I think that's what I'm excited about right now. Just getting out of here and not working for 6 days, and it's gonna be good.
I have to say this, since we started the show talking about my potentially starting a Battleborn show, like that is one thing I'm very pumped for, to be into a game where I want to analyze the meta. I've always wanted to do that. I've always wanted to have that game that I was just like, I am about this. And so far, within the first week, that is what this has been. So the second week will kind of be, again, a proving ground. And I think if I can hammer out these audio issues, the popping, edit it manually, edit out the popping, edit out any kind of static, if I can compress the audio within this next week, I'm pretty much circling around to the idea that I'll start this show because, like Warframe, the problem with it is it doesn't have a meta, and like that is kind of the allure of the game, that you can jump in and jump out of it when there are nice bursts of content.
Sure.
And I still want to do it regularly.
State of the frame.
But there is also this idea that I can play other games, because, like, I was just thinking about that while we were fucking about trying to fix the quality for the show.
Mm-hmm.
I'm playing a PvP game right now that is making me assess the PvP side of State of the Frame and kind of what it's lacking and how that could affect the game. And I don't see why I can't take these outside experiences and apply them to inside the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to be facetious and be like, I love Warframe so much that, I'm just trying to make it better. No, I've even said on the show, like, I recognize that I am a person who likes playing games,
mm-hmm.
and I've stepped away from it. So, yeah, I think it's a go-ahead at this point, so that's kind of hype.
Pretty good. You're just going to do it yourself, like State of the Frame, or do you have anybody in mind?
I mean, if you jump into it, if you jump into Battleborn, you are the other person, with a quality connection sometimes.
And at least quality equipment.
Yeah, and so, Day 9 basically did analytics for StarCraft and for Hearthstone. It does it kind of analytically for Hearthstone these days, more for fun as of late. And that has always been what has appealed to me, because I am of the same nature, where it's... I don't want to be funny, about playing a game. I don't just want to get on a stream and play and talk to people.
Right.
Fuck, most of the time I don't want to talk to people. But what I do have is at least a very keen understanding of how to play and fundamentals and, things to just make play better.
Yeah.
I did the same with you when it came to Modern Warfare. I was just like, well, and we were talking about this on the last episode. I was like, well, here's what you did wrong. You were thinking this way when you should have been thinking this way. And I feel like I can do that for a lot of people. So might as well try.
Indeed.
So that was Hype Train. I'm so happy we started a whole separate recording for that. So...
Yeah. Sorry for not being too hype feeling. I'm just
no,
tired.
I mean that's completely gonna happen, and I didn't have much going either. But let's go ahead and I'll stop the recording. I'll stop both recordings, export, save, blah blah. See you guys in the topic, and yeah.
Don't mind me yawning.
Peace.
Bye.